I want to go all the way back.
Okay.
Because you talk about traveling
Mm-hmm.
and having that first business while you're traveling. This is after college is done. You started traveling?
Yeah. So I got my bachelor's, took a year off, got my master's. A year after my master's is when I left the country.
Okay. So you're how old at that point?
I think I left the country at 26 years old. Yeah.
26.
Yeah.
Okay. Why? Why leave? Most people get out of school, they get a job, they move back home, they do something. You decided to.
Yeah. To give up my life. Yeah. After getting my master's, I highly considered getting a PhD, and I was applying to programs to get my PhD. At that point, I had
been a PhD in like marketing or business?
No, in communication.
Communications.
Yeah, I wanted to be a professor.
Okay.
But at that point, I had started a business with a couple that I was friends with in Idaho, and I started working from home. At that point, my life kind of blew up. I, was cheated on. And at that point, I was like, I have two options here. I stay in Idaho and keep living this life where you're dating shitty guys and there's like this dead end. Like it looked to me at that point, my life was a dead end if I didn't do something different. So at that point, I had my remote job, found a remote community to join. And within weeks after that occurrence, I was literally out of the country within less than 6 weeks. I had sold everything I owned, got a passport, and I was gone.
Just the flexibility that you created for yourself to be able to cut ties like that.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people get into an instance where things are not going how they want. They get into a similar scenario, but they say, "Oh, but I'm stuck." Either they already have a kid, they're tied down to family and they're unable to leave.
You have an in-person job that you can't replace,
So it doesn't sound like there was any sense of like foresight that any of this was coming. Were you prepared? You just happened to be luckily prepared in this way where you could up and do it?
I don't believe in luck. I believe God put me in that position. And I firmly believe in that moment because I had said a prayer like one evening, like, God, my life, I don't think is on the right track. And I know you've probably given me signs in the past, but this time I promise you I'll listen. And I swear to you, within minutes, my ex's phone lit up. And that's how I found out he was cheating. It was within minutes of that prayer.
Wow.
And that's when I was like, I knew God had a different plan for my life and a different path. And he listened to that prayer immediately and like fulfilled it. I believe that everything leading up to that, he prepared me because he had put it on my heart to get out of the office environment because I was getting harassed almost daily at the office. I would go out and call my mom crying in the parking lot, and she prayed with me often in the parking lot. And it had been on my heart, like, you don't belong in an office. This is not the environment for you. Put it on my heart to get a remote job. All of these things that led up to everything I have now, including my husband and my child now, because had I not traveled remotely, I wouldn't have met the person who introduced me to my husband.
Yeah.
And if I hadn't have met my husband, I never probably would have bought a property and gotten into Airbnb. And I wouldn't be pregnant right now. So it's like, I think that prayer and that moment literally was like what started the whole path of everything I have right now.
Well, you talk about how it all leads to something that you love the way your life is going now. And it's envy for many people that want that too. But what you had to go through that in order to get where you are, like your whole life kind of blows up in that moment. Like who wants to put up with that to get to the dream on the other side of that?
Yeah.
Without having the vision of where you're going and knowing that it's all going to end up okay. And to your point, you had God on your side to make that happen. But I met you when you were out wandering, or I guess it was exposed to you for the first time when you were out and you were Instagram hashtag or handle wandering heart.
Yeah.
Right. I keep waiting for you to change it to like heart found a home or something like that. Like when is that going to happen?
Yeah.
It's still wandering heart.
Yeah.
Okay. Always will be.
I think so. It's pretty
You've
cool.
been branded that way.
Yeah.
Because that's perfectly fine. But as you're out traveling and you're having what I assume was amazing experiences that, like, let's just start there. Like most people don't get the chance to go out and do that.
Yeah.
Is it the chance or did you make the chance happen for yourself? I've never left North America. I'd like to say that I traveled in my 20s, but I didn't. Yeah. You found a way to make it happen. For better or worse. Yeah. But like you made it happen. It didn't just come to you.
No, definitely made it happen. It seemed so simple when you think about boiling it all down to the couple weeks that I had and selling everything and saying my goodbyes, throwing a goodbye party that weeks before that I hadn't had planned. It all seems so simple, but it wasn't simple. There was so much I was letting go of. You know, I at that point had like, I think 9, 10 nieces and nephews living in Idaho, my entire family saying, you know, parting ways with my dad, who was the reason I never went out of state for college. I always stayed, you know, that bond that I had with him. There was so much I said goodbye to, but I knew in that moment, my life, like there was 2 paths that I could choose. And not to say that my life would have sucked if I stayed in Idaho. I know plenty of people who stayed in Idaho and have great lives. But the life that I envisioned for myself, I knew was not possible if I didn't leave.
Yeah.
So although it wasn't simple, it actually was an easy decision because staying in Idaho seemed like a more difficult path than leaving.
Yeah. Well, I think it's remarkable the number of people whose lives change for the better when they leave home after high school or college. Like
Agreed.
the ones that go back, it's just a different trajectory and it works out differently for different people.
Yeah.
But okay, you decided to go travel. How do you know where to go, how to survive? Like you're not like a 6'4", 250-pound guy that's going to take care of himself regardless of where he is. You're just traveling the world. Like I think when I was first introduced to you, you were in Thailand. Or maybe it was Bali.
Yeah,
like I don't
Bali.
know.
Yeah.
Like how do you know where to go and travel?
Well, I joined for the first year. I joined a group of remote workers who were traveling the world. It was called We Roam, and
Where did you find them? Like a Facebook
I
group?
literally
or something?
Googled it. Like,
Okay.
yeah, and found this group.
I'm looking for people to travel with who
yeah,
also were.
I applied for it. Everybody in that group had lost a loved one, got cheated on, had their life blown up. There wasn't a single person who was enjoying the life they had. Something traumatic didn't happen to them because most people don't just one day sell everything they own and leave the country. That is not a common thing to do. Every single person had something traumatic happen to them, and that's how we all bonded. But that was like the growth of all of it. Is every single person that was in that group, they're doing amazing things. Like they're like multiple of them are multimillionaires now, own their own companies. A lot of them are still traveling the world. Like when I look at that pool of people that I know compared to everybody else I've met in my life, they are the most successful people that I know. And I think it all started with that moment of tragedy. And you can choose to stay sad and stuck in your tragedy and stay in the same path that you're in when whatever it is happens to you. Or you can, because your life is already blown up, it's so easy to put the pieces back together in a different way. And that is what we all did.
And the easiest way to do that is just leave and go bond with a bunch of other people who are going to do the exact same thing.
That was the path that we all chose. And it's, you know, as I said, it's led me to where I am now. I'm sure there's other ways to make that work. But I think most of the time when you face a tragedy, if you stay in the exact same thing that you're in, you're just going to live in that trauma.